I've always loved doing resolution lists at the new year or making lists of dreams. And one time in particular, January 1996, I was between jobs and didn't really have a prospect necessarily of what I was going to do. So at the time, I probably heard or read somewhere to put lists in a journal, and that sometimes things happen that you write down. So I bought myself a new journal that I loved and wrote down some of my dreams and goals, like life goals. And I have an updated list that I wrote in there in the winter of 2008. So it was interesting to go back and look at the list and see what had come true and what hadn't. A couple years later, I found out about Day Zero Project. And what this is you make a list of 101 things that you're going to do in 1,001 days. So I love that. I started making my list. I was all excited. It was January 2010, so I was about to be going to attend the Olympic Games, which was a childhood dream of mine. So it kind of, I got inspired to do this list knowing, well, one of the things I'll write on there is to attend the Olympic Games, and that's about to happen. But the other thing with making a list of 101 things in 1,001 days is, do we keep it realistic? Do we actually put big dreams in there? As my list was kind of boring because I was kind of writing down things I would do that were in my city, in Toronto. I would, go to Fort York or other tourist sites. It wasn't a very exciting list. And then I thought, well, what if I'm at day 900 and I still have to go to Fort York? And I don't really want to go to Fort York. I have been, so I'm not trying to say anything negative about Fort York. But, in some of the things on the list, sometimes I had written to go have a drink at the at a tavern, our oldest tavern, the I forget how to say it now, the Wheat Sheaf Tavern. And I thought, well, what if it closes and you can't do that anymore? So now do I fail at my list because I have something that is no longer possible, or am I going to force myself to do something just to check it off a list? So this project ended up not being ideal for me. What I decided to do was do Day Zero Project my way. So I started a new blog. I called it Day Zero Project My Way. And the way I did it was write down any dream, whether I think I can do it in 1,001 days or not, whether I may never do it, but just to make a list of as many dreams, as many things as I'd like to do, and put it on one list. And then have another list of 100, listing 1 to 101. And when something from that list gets done, it goes on the 101. But we're always focusing on a list of dreams, whether they're happening or not, and then on the list of things we're completing. So we're not really looking at a 1 to 101, and some are checked and some are not, and we're focusing on the negative things that are, they're not checked yet. It's that we just have a world of possibilities of dreams. Whenever I would think, I'd see something and I think, oh, I'd love to do that someday. Oh, someday. Let's go put on the list, and then maybe it'll come up. What ended up happening with this list is that sometimes, there is planning required. Let's say I want to go on a trip somewhere. I need to start planning that trip. I need to do things. It's not just going to fall from the sky, right? So there is some planning that needs to be done on some of these things. But with others, sometimes they just kind of happened, which is amazing to me. The law of attraction, when we put our dreams on paper, it's amazing the different things that can happen. And one of them was that my daughter loved penguins at the time. So I started researching, where are there penguins? And there were some in Florida, some in Detroit, some in Montreal. So I was starting to plan a trip to take her to see some penguins. And what happened is that penguins arrived at the Toronto Zoo. Right? I was kind of so surprised and amazed that we could just easily check off to go see penguins on my list. Sometimes I added things to my complete list, even if I didn't have the item written on my dream list. Because sometimes things would happen that I couldn't even dream about. And sometimes it's so easy to say no when you get offered something. So whenever I noticed that I said yes to a request that, in the past I might have said no to, I would still put it on my list. And I found this an important part. It's not cheating in the sense, because it's my rules. I'm doing it my way. Is that oftentimes just these things happen that just surprise us, or the opportunities that come up are really surprising. An example of that would be seeing the Dalai Lama. I would never have dreamed of putting that on a dream list, but he was coming to Toronto, and I put the news on one morning after dropping off the kids to school, and was reminded that he was in Toronto that day. I'd kind of heard he was coming, and I thought, oh, maybe that would be nice to do, but I hadn't bought a ticket. And I thought, no, when is he ever going to get back? When will I ever have that opportunity? It would have been easy to say no, oh, maybe next time. But I decided to buy a ticket that morning and go to see the Dalai Lama speak. And I'm so happy I did. I would have never gotten that opportunity again. And the same when Queen Elizabeth was in Toronto. I went down with my SLR down to Queen's Park to try to get some photos of her and see her, right? And it would have been easy to say, oh, I'll just go next time. But she never came back, right? So that was one chance that I had. And again, it's not something I would have put on a dream list. One of the mini rules that I would have for the 101 things was, whether it's on the list or it's not on the list, if it's something that I'm amazed happened, then it gets put on the list. The other thing I loved about the Day Zero project, when I started it, when I calculated when 1001 days was, it was falling on Canadian Thanksgiving 2012. But with 6 months to go, I realized, I don't know if I was at 50 yet, and I realized, okay, this is probably not going to happen. I won't get to 101. But I still thought it was worthwhile, because there was still so many amazing things that happened that I was able to write in that list of 101. But what ended up happening, you have a deadline, you're reaching towards a goal of a deadline, and it's amazing that the week before, it was a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, I ended up volunteering for the Olympic parade in Toronto. So I got to work with Olympians, with, hold an Olympic medal, and I was surrounded by Olympians. And one of the things that was on my list was to meet Olympians, to go see Olympians compete. That was one of the things. So if I could have gone to 150 with all the different Olympians I met, but I kind of grouped them to get it to 99, I think, or 98, because then on the Thanksgiving weekend, my husband organized, and he didn't really know about this, so it's a little bit of coincidence, for us to go see the fall colors that I love up at Algonquin Park, where Tom Thompson passed away on Canoe Lake. It was just a magical way to end my Day Zero project my way. So then I thought, do I even want to try it again? This worked out so perfectly. I thought that maybe that was it, right? There's no way I can be as successful the next time. But I punched in the dates, and when is 1001 days? Oh, it's Pan Am Games in Toronto. I think it was the opening ceremony day. It's like, okay, let's do it again. Let's try and see how it goes. And again, it was incredible, the things that happened in those 1001 days. So I did it again and again. And in the end, what ended up happening, I just kind of got used to this Day Zero project my way, and I stopped thinking about it, and I stopped updating my list, and I had stopped updating the blog quite a while back. So what I realized was, the Day Zero project my way was amazing for me the first few times, but then, maybe I needed to refresh it. And what I decided to do was firstly to shorten it so that I couldn't forget about it. I didn't want it to be almost 3 years, 1001 day. I decided to shorten it. And instead of 101 things, I chose 55. With relation to my Revive 55 project, I thought 55 was a good number. And when I looked at the dates, this was around my birthday when I started this project. I initially thought of 555, but then when I noticed that 550 was falling on my half birthday, that just seemed perfect. So because of the leap year, 550 days was starting on my birthday and ending on my half birthday. So I love those numbers. So that's what I started my 55 in 550 project, where I did it the same way, my way, as a Day Zero project. I just don't have to call it my way anymore because 55 in 550 is my way. It's my rules. But you can do it your way if you want to. If you're inspired by this project and you want to do the 55 and 550 your way, or choose your numbers and choose the way you do it, your rules, I would love to hear how you are either amending it or changing it or making it even better. So I'd love to hear from you if you decide to do a project like this. So thank you for watching. I hope you are inspired by my 55 in 550 project, and I will see you next time.